Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 2025 Marshall State of the City address for the City Marshal featuring Mayor Bob Burns and City Administrator Sharon Hansen. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Brad Gruhat, President for your Marshall Chamber. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors today for today's program. First off, our corporate sponsors, Avera Marshall, the Schwan's Company, Bremer Bank, ADM, City of Marshall, Ralco, U.S. Bank, Action Companies and ATZ Manufacturing, Southwest Minnesota State University, Marshall Downtown Business Association. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsors, ADM again, Northwest Partners, Boxcar Wind, Hoffman Bropes, Henley Printing, and CCM. Thank you for your support for this event. Please give them a round of applause. I'd like to recognize the non-city elected officials in the room. A short wave will do when you hear your name. County Commissioner Gary Crowley, County Commissioner Tom Andrews, Marshall Public Schools Board Member Sarah Brink. Also, I want to recognize a couple of others, Katie Leach, who is with Congresswoman Fishbach's office, and Jean Poppy with Senator Tina Smith's office. Thank you both for being here. Finally, I want to recognize our host, SMSU President, Dr. Kumar Jayasuriya. I also want to recognize Superintendent of Marshall Public Schools, Jeremy Williams. Thank you both for attending. And before we proceed any further, I ask that you please rise if you are able for the singing of the national anthem by Marshall Fire Chief Quentin Brunsville.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land and of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Thank you, Quentin. All right, once again, thank you for attending today. This is year 7. We have partnered with the City of Marshall on this event, and we never even missed a year, even with COVID sandwiched in there. So why do we host this every year? It's an excellent way for our friends at the city to get in front of the business community and be transparent of all the good things and challenges that go on every single year. So I'm excited for 2025, and I think you will be as well. So enough from me, but let me introduce our presenters. I'd like to introduce Mayor Bob Burns and City Administrator Sharon Hansen. After the presentation, it'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So I'll be walking around with the mic. Mayor Burns is serving his 11th term as mayor, and prior to that, he was with the council for 6 years. Bob retired following a 40-year career with the University of Minnesota, where he served as statewide director of operations for the University of Minnesota Extension. Bob is involved in several community organizations. He is on the board of directors for the Southwest Regional Development Commission, past chairman of Prairie Land Economic Development Corporation, chair of the MnDOT Area Transportation Partnership, vice chair of the Highway 23 Coalition Board, board member for Habitat for Humanity, and board member of Marl. Sharon has been the city administrator since 2017. She is responsible for the overall management and operation of the city, overseeing the budget, personnel, and its departments. The city administrator also serves as liaison between the division directors and the city council and the public. Please help me welcome Mayor Bob Burns and City of Marshall Administrator Sharon Hansen.
Okay, thank you. It is truly an honor, really, to be in front of this group, and thank you all for attending. Maybe just a couple housekeeping things that we ought to. You have the clicker, right? And you're going to take care of that. And you can hear me okay. Charles, you're okay back there? Okay, good. The full disclosure, I woke up the other morning with a scratchy throat, so I'm fortunate the Avera table is right in front of me in case. But if I get a sniffly nose or lose my voice, that's what's going on. So I'd also like to thank Sharon. She has really done a lot of preparation here. She's prepared the slides. I looked at them this morning. They look good. So I think we'll be good. So let me also acknowledge the city staff that are here, and in a few minutes I'll introduce the city council members. But once again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Sharon? So, our city council, I really want to acknowledge, I'm serving as mayor, but it really is the city council that is that group that dedicates a lot of time in leading the city. We have several of the city council members that are here, and you see those people on the screen, but Simo Oleski and Jim Lazinski are both here, as well as John Alcorn. I don't believe Craig is here, right? So, but let me just say, this is a group of very dedicated people. We have a lot of meetings. We have a lot of interaction. There's not always agreement, but there's always the shared vision of let's do what's right for the city. Sharon?
Okay. Before I introduce staff, I just want to talk a little bit about them. Our city staff and leadership team, they're talented, they're intelligent, and dedicated to the city of Marshall. They work very hard. And most of all, they serve as mentors to each other and to me as city administrator, so I appreciate that. They're really serving out the will of the public through council action. And sometimes that can be challenging. Sometimes it's informational. Sometimes it can be adversarial, but it also can be very, very rewarding. So we're in a really good position as city staff with our current council and our leadership. Our core leadership is division directors, and I just want to introduce them. They're on this slide here. Our public safety director, Jim Marshall, who's in the far back. Our Public Works Director, Jason Anderson, who's closer to the stage, and then also our Director of Administrative Services, E.J. Mulberg. We also have other city staff leadership here, and as well as some other staff. And if they could just stand for a little bit, and let's give them a round of applause. We talked a little bit about council and staff, and the one thing we also wanted to talk about this year is just about public service from the general public. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you're starting your 33rd year as mayor, which is truly remarkable. You're one of the longest-serving mayors now in the state, and you make it look easy. So I thought you could talk a little bit about how the general public helps the city with our services.
So, we have not only the city council, we have 7 dedicated people on our city council, but we also have 12 different boards and commissions, and we're always very, very grateful to the volunteers that serve on these boards and commissions. There are about 100 people that volunteer to serve on different boards and commissions. We're always have turnover because people can only serve, unlike the mayor or city council, there's term limits, so people can only serve 2 consecutive terms on a board or commission. So, and we're always looking for people to step up and volunteer. And we thought it would be good to really take a step back and say, okay, people decided to run for city council, including our newest city council member, Amanda Schwartz, and people step up to be on different boards and commissions, whether it's the Economic Development Authority, whether it's Community Services Board, whether it's Airport, whether it's any of the other of our dozen boards and commissions. So we thought it would be good to hear from people why they decided to do this public service really for the betterment of Marshall.
I decided to run for city council because it was really important for me to have an opportunity to have a voice. The city of Marshall is really important to me. I'm raising a family here. I was born and raised here, so its growth and its future is really important to me.
So my interest in serving my community really started with a friend reaching out and asking me if I would be willing to volunteer my time for the city of Marshall. I decided based on the relationship with this friend that I would be willing to give the EDA board a shot. Turned out after I got involved, a lot of those fears or concerns were really overblown, and I really enjoyed ultimately serving to promote the attractiveness of businesses through the EDA for the city of Marshall.
I became interested in serving in the community when I realized that I wanted to find a way to get more involved with Marshall in general. I'm not from the area originally, so I wanted to get to know some other folks and really just kind of find a way to get involved and help make a difference.
My first year as a city council member, I am just excited to embrace all the things there are to learn. Our current council members are so smart and educated, and their experience that I get to learn from, I'm very fortunate to be able to do that.
I enjoy being on a local board serving the city the most is the people that I get to serve with. So you have a bunch of people from around the community, from different jobs, backgrounds, experiences that are all coming together to try to advance the interests in the community of Marshall. I found that these people all are quality people that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten a chance to maybe meet in the community. And I've even been lucky enough to call some of my friends now.
I serve on the Community Service Advisory Board, and I think what I like most about it is that we actually have a really large group of everyday citizens who serve on the board, along with some of our elected officials, and then some folks from the city government as well. So it's really nice to see kind of how that group blends together and kind of the different ideas that we generate. And I like that our group is really actionable. The things that we talk about actually lead to different changes and lead to things that happen in the community.
I'm just really looking forward to hopefully creating a level of trust and confidence from the community members and do right by them by representing them the best way I can.
Someone should consider being on a city board or commission because why not you? You live in this community, you go to work in this community, you pay taxes in this community, your kids likely went to school or go to school in this community, and these decisions made by these boards and commissions ultimately will impact your day-to-day life. And who knows, you might actually enjoy it, have a little fun, and ultimately make some new friends along the way within the community.
I think it's a great idea to apply to be on the city boards and commissions because an application doesn't mean that you're committing to the process. It just gives you the chance to learn more. And if you do decide to be part of one of these boards or commissions, it's a really great opportunity to get to know others, to get involved, to have a say, and to represent the community in general.
So thank you again to those folks that stepped up, but also everyone else that serves on different boards and commissions. And we should recognize Ben Blumey right over here at this table, who's one of the stars of that video. So thank you, Ben. Let's give him a round of applause.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about some key indicators for the city. And I know, Bob, as the title states, it's State of the City. So we're going to cover some facts that kind of indicate what the state of the city is.
So in a bit, we're going to talk about a lot of detail. Boy, that's really small. But you know, this is kind of the nuts and bolts of where are we at with the city. So and let me do something quick here because I can't read that. So I'm going to actually refer to the printed slides. So first off, as far as where we're at with the city financially, we have a AA bond rating by Standard & Poor's, which is really the highest financial rating that is really possible for a city that's our size. So that's good financially where we're at. We have 15 companies that have over 100 employees. Go ahead.
Yeah, and some of the other indicators on here, and I don't know if you want me to go line by line, but a lot of them are factors on why people choose to live here. The median age, which I know SMSU really helps with that, but when you compare with other regional cities, we're really leading in that category. Our non-white population really helps contribute not only to the SMSU population, but also our labor force. And they're business owners as well. And I know we highlighted that in past State of the Cities. I like to highlight this one, which is the commute time, which is, I think it says about 11 minutes. Seems like a small thing, but really, this is, you can get around Marshall really quick and easy, and it's a factor that adds to the quality of life. And let me just say, it takes a lot longer to get around Sioux Falls. I wanted to throw that in there.
I want to make just a comment about the median age population, because this comes from our last census. And remember the last census, and I'll talk about the census in a bit in population, but remember the SMSU housing was not counted there. So this is actually probably overstated because it didn't count the university housing on that census.
I don't know if you wanted to cover anything else, but I know we do have some specific slides on SMSU and the population if
Well, let's
you
go
want
into
to cover
then.
that.
Let's go into the next slides then. So the last few years, as we've talked here and I've kind of focused on, is what is our population? And we all know that in the 2020 census that it was happened on April 1st of 2020. 2 weeks before that, the pandemic shut everything down, the university housing, including the university housing. So when census happened, the university population, the students that are really part of our community, they weren't counted in our census. So we appealed that, and we were the only community in the state that actually followed through on that appeal, because it was long, it was onerous, and and there were some frustrations along the line. But a year ago, the U.S. Census Bureau did acknowledge that it was wrong. We were right, and our population number on the sign should be corrected. So our new population number is 13,906. We think that's still an undercount because it really only factored in those that population that wasn't counted in the university housing. We know that there's a lot of off-campus housing of students too, but we are 13,906. Now our challenge, we have one sign that MnDOT has replaced. The rest of them are all the tattered signs, like the one that is on the left there. And they updated it with the incorrect number. So we really don't want them to replace the signs with the wrong number. We want them to replace it with 13,906 because that is what our population is. I was in before I retired a couple weeks ago, I was in a conference where the state demographer was talking about census and population and trends, and then she made the point that communities really need to look forward and not try to look at inaccuracies in the past. And my response was, well, we need to correct the past and then also plan for the future. It's 13,906. That's the number to remember.
All right, we did highlight SMSU and its impact on our state of the city, but if you can see these numbers, they're really impressive. And I know that this was presented by SMSU president recently as well. But just to highlight a few, the degree-seeking students rose 14% over the previous year. That's the highest increase, I believe, in about 10 years. So it's very, very impressive. It's SMSU is one of the fastest growing universities in the MnSCU system. And I know that they've done a lot of work on developing some programs. Recently, a bachelor's of nursing degree, which I know Avera has helped try to do some consulting with that as well. A master's in social work, which is critical for our labor force as well. And it's really helped grow some of these numbers as indicated on the screen. And a few years back, they did cybersecurity, which has been a fast-growing degree as well. SMSU president gives a lot of credit to staff, and deservedly so. But I know, Kamara, you've done an awesome job of really bringing these numbers up and helping our community as SMSU grows.
And of course, Kamara and his leadership team are here and also in a table in the back. And I think we should really recognize the great job that they've done. They're such an important part of our community. So as far as our building activity in 2024, you can see the numbers there. In 2024, our building activity, our building permits that were issued were actually the highest that they've been in 10 years. So there was a lot of building activity. Most of that is commercial building activity, but there is good activity in the community. And I also should note that that number for 2024 does not include the Armory project, because the Armory doesn't have a local building permit because that's a state-run project. So if that was included, that would probably be another $15 million on top of that $32 million.
Yeah, and a lot of the valuation that's shown here, we're going to show a few slides that kind of support those numbers as well.
So we will move into some construction and development that happened this past year. And one of those developments that we talked a lot about last year was Solugen. So Solugen, as we talked about last year, it was announced, they had a groundbreaking. For those of you that might not be as familiar with Solugen, their process is that once they're up and running, they will purchase dextrose from ADM. It'll be piped under County Road 33. They'll go through a process where they would isolate the dextrose molecule and go through a molecular manipulation where they would then replicate the building base molecule that's the building base for petroleum products. So it's an exciting and great project. They did the site work this past year. Now they're kind of in a pause period, and probably there's people wondering, well, what is going on out there? So asked one of their executives, said, well, tell us. And here is the response.
And I'm happy to say that none of this, the timeline shift, the adjustment, will impact the size or the scope of the project. We are still committed to the original size and scope that you all know about. We're looking at a 500,000 square foot facility, 34 acres adjacent to ADM, where we're going to be getting our corn dextrose. We still have a very good partnership with ADM. The max capacity for this facility will be 120,000 kilotons. So again, this will be a massive facility in Solugen terms. And again, we're going to be creating, once we resume that construction, 100 temporary construction jobs and 50 full-time, highly skilled manufacturing jobs. So again, the jobs have not changed. The scope of the project, the size of the project, the size of the facility, none of that has changed as we have looked at this timeline adjustment. I just want to reaffirm our commitment to Marshall and to BioForge Marshall. It really is a key pillar of our financial model, of our growth strategy. It will be our first full-scale commercial facility. We are not looking at other locations. Marshall is where we will build our first full-scale commercial facility.
So we were very pleased to see that development, and it will be scheduled to be in operation, I believe, in 2027. And I think we should also note that this major project wouldn't happen but for the availability of the dextrose, and that's only because of the operations of ADM in the community. So we got a lot of good things going there. So other things that are going on, and we'll kind of go through some of these fairly fast, and I know that we're going to miss some things. So apologies if the project that you're most familiar with we don't cover, but one is Les Schwab Tires, which you see there, where the former Quist Moving and Storage, where they had their operation before they built a new facility. So they're scheduled to open March 26th.
Yeah, they're seeing a lot of growth nationally. They originally are from Oregon, but they've got 500 stores nationwide. We've seen a lot of other regional centers like Marshall get a Les Schwab, and we're happy to have them be part of our business community as well. Second Quick Trip, I know everyone's probably very familiar with this. We're happy for that development. that occurred. It helps rejuvenate a little bit of industrial park and bring some additional traffic. They have dedicated diesel pumps, which will also help our truck traffic, which is quite high in the city of Marshall. And I know you probably want to add this, but maybe I'll just state we think they're still interested in a third site somewhere in Marshall. However, for the record, we do not know where or what the timing of that would be.
Okay. So the Southwest West Central Service Co-op had really two developments this past year. One is almost completed. The construction of a new office facility. This is on the corner of London Road and Channel Parkway. That office facility is nearly completed. I'm not sure if we have a move-in date, but
I think they're looking at August of this year.
so it's not quite complete then. They're still working on it, but it is a new facility. Currently, they're located in the west end of the Market Street, former Market Street Mall, so they will relocate. Service Co-op serves a 18-county area. They provide special services to school districts in that area. So in that 18 counties, their office facility could have been located anywhere, and we're really fortunate that they decided to build in the city of Marshall. There's 60 or so really quality positions that were retained in the community. In addition to that, they also did work here on the campus.
Yes, they actually redeveloped a portion of the social sciences building, which is a really great collaboration between Southwest West Central, SMSU, and then also Marshall High Schools. As you stated, it provides student services. In this particular case, our alternative school, not just only for Marshall area school, but also as well as the region. And it's nice to keep our kids in the city of Marshall instead of on a long bus trip, which was true for their past locations. And it also provides usable space for SMSU, which is overall helps their financial outlook as well. So a great collaboration there.
And then also located is the adult basic education would be in that same renovated facility. So it's really a win-win for the university, for the Southwest Service Co-op, and probably most importantly for the audience that's served. Talk just a little bit about housing. This is the conceptual drawing of the Stone Meadows housing unit that is currently under construction. They've done the footing work on the first building. There'll be 3 36-unit market rate rental housing. The location of this is kind of in the Walmart area behind the old Shopko building, in that area that was vacant, kind of across from Runnings. That's where it's under construction. They did the site work this past fall, right before freeze up, and just a couple of weeks ago, they started working on the footings.
Yeah, and EDA helped facilitate discussions. Because it being market rate, there was an EDA assistance on this particular project, but we continue to strive towards additional housing in Marshall. It's been a challenge statewide and nationally in terms of meeting the demand. This will get us a little bit closer with this particular development.
And of course, we're, for a number of years, we were very interested in what is going to be the reuse of the former Shopko building. And now we do see not only Harbor Freight is in there, but Marshall's is scheduled to open on April 24th. So very excited about that. I think the community is looking forward to that opening. They're working away. I believe the first week of April, they're supposed to have their occupancy. Contractors supposed to be out of there, and they'll spend about 3 weeks stocking the store and training their staff, and Marshall's in Marshall will be open.
And what I like best about Marshall is the city of Marshall and its residents is they're never satisfied with what we've got. So the next question is, well, what's going to happen with the rest of the space? And I know that the tenant, or the owners of the building rather, and our EDA staff is working closely with them, and they're actively seeking out a third tenant to fully occupy the former Shopko.
And we're very confident that's going to happen fairly soon.
Main Street, we've got a slide upcoming that really highlights our strong Main Street businesses. In fact, I think if you walk down Main Street, I don't believe there's any openings. But this particular case, we just wanted to highlight Carol and Terry Haas, long-term business owners in downtown Marshall, did a really nice transition here from one family to another. I know it was an emotional day for them, but long history, Carl's TV with their family, and it's nice to see a retail business in downtown Marshall.
So this is a busy slide, but there's some other additional development. We'll cover some of these. Again, there's some that we'll probably not get to, but when Sharon mentions downtown, downtown is thriving, is changing. Some of the images that you see on there reflect some of those changes. The Music Street moved to where Note Gallery was, and in the former location where Music Street was, I'll probably have the name wrong, D. Lee's Boutique and Gift Store will open. I believe their grand opening is this weekend, so that'll be open there. Other things that we have on that slide?
Yeah, I know Farmers Insurance Agency added an office downtown. Vanderzeel actually also did a nice transition, and they sold to an individual. Minar Accounting, that's the lower logo in the center. Tranquility Tea is also a business that has been there for a few months, and Pulse Fitness, as well as downtown. And I don't know if you wanted me to keep going on some of the other slides, but or the pictures rather.
Go ahead.
Just Ag Plus, I just want to give a shout out to them. They did do a major construction projects with the upgrade of the diesel tanks and pumps, and maybe that doesn't particularly pertain to us, but I really see some potential growth there and in reinvestment. They got a new general manager last year, and I think the nice thing about them is just supporting our rural ag community, which they do really, really well. Upper right, you see some construction there, and that's actually Borch's, which is adding on, which is a really nice development on East College Drive. And then in the center, and I don't know if you want to talk about this one a little bit, is just Henley Printing purchased a building.
Yeah, Henley Printing, and of course we have the ownership of Henley Printing are in the room. They'll be relocating to the former KHC building, which is out on Highway 59. Their relocation was necessitated because of growth in Henley Printing. So they outgrew their current facility. It doesn't fit with the new presses that they have and will have. So that's a really good move for them, and there'll be a new tenant that will be in the former Henley Printing space on Jewett Street.
Okay, we got a bunch of slides we want to present as well, just on some of the projects that the city did in the past year, and some of the projects are still ongoing.
So we'll go through some of these fairly fast. The one is the snow removal equipment building. This is at the airport, what we call Air Park East. So this is the new portion of the developing area of the airport. This is the second building that is located there. It's nearly what's in the process of being constructed right now. This is to store the snow removal equipment that we have and utilize at the airport, which is very specialized, big equipment. Currently it is stored in a variety of hangars and facilities that really should be available for private rental. So this will bring everything together. This is actually funded, the majority of the funding of this comes from FAA and MnDOT aeronautics funding, which their source of funding is aviation fuel tax. So it's about 80% state and federal funding.
Yeah, and local contractor Susner Construction is the contractor for this project, so we're happy about keeping those dollars local. No, it's Susner on this one. So anyway, Bladholm's coming up though.
Okay.
So, and I want to add to this building, and I'm sure most of you have maybe seen it, really looks nice next to the private hangar, which was developed or completed last year around the same time, actually. So we're seeing some activity out in Airport East.
So Whitney Street construction, this is a continuation of some projects that are necessary to do, not only because of the age of the street and the infrastructure underneath it, but the timing of this really needs to happen and be completed before the College Drive project. So we'll talk about College Drive in just a minute, but Whitney Street, prior to that, 3rd Street, this coming year, Hill Street, will be reconstructed, and all those streets intersect then with College Drive where the infrastructure goes.
Yeah, and I just really like these pictures because it's a nice picture of the trees, and Councilmember Lazinski kind of led this discussion with the residents in his neighborhood, and they really wanted to save as many trees as possible, and engineering worked with the residents to make that happen. So really some nice photos with trees that were able to be saved. Yeah, improved parking. I know this may seem like not a large item, but it's actually one of the things we get complimented the most on is when the parking lots were improved. And this is particularly true, the one photo with the large concrete boom from Buffalo Ridge there on the right. That's actually what I would call the movie theater parking lot. It was actually one of our worst parking lots we had for public parking. So it was a challenge for businesses along that area, but it's a really beautiful looking parking lot and greatly enhanced the safety for pedestrians and those that are parking there. And then on the left is the back parking lot of Independence Park. And I think when you hear the back parking lot, most people say, well, why are we investing in that? But most people maybe didn't utilize it as highly as they would just because of the condition. It was wet, mucky. This particular concrete parking lot really improves drainage, and people are starting to really use that parking lot.
So we have other improvements that are going on. This is a phased project, but improvements at Legion Field. They've done some field improvements this past fall. The dugouts on the third base side were replaced. They were in really tough conditions, and because of that, it was difficult to attract tournaments and the end users to Legion Field. And we know Legion Field is really the gem of small town baseball, and we want to keep that up.
Yeah, I like this photo as well. We get a lot of usage of the field, not only by Marshall A's, but the high school and SMSU. So it's a multi-use facility. Blattholm Construction is helping us with this particular project. And also I want to give a shout out to Marshall Area Youth Baseball Association. We've got really good partnership with them, and they've been able to provide a lot of donations to this particular project. I'm sure Jen in the audience is really looking at this because she wants to get baseball playing out there, and I'll let her talk with Preston about that on their own. I'm sure that's on her mind.
Okay, so in the previous, especially last year, we talked quite a bit about the emerald ash borer. It was identified in the community. Emerald ash borer will be fatal to every ash tree in the community unless they're treated. We have a fairly aggressive plan that was actually implemented about 5 years before emerald ash borer was identified in the community. But, the bottom line is we have about 6,000 ash trees in the community, and if they're not treated, they will all die. So the city is through some help through a Minnesota DNR grant called the Relief Grant. We have been aggressively, we being our Parks Department and our Public Ways and Street Department, have been aggressively removing trees, and staff can correct me on this right now, but there's just over 200 trees have been removed from our street boulevards, and about 140 trees have been removed from our parks. Our parks, I believe we still have about 236 yet to go, or so we're not quite halfway there, but For every tree that is removed, we have plans, and part of the grant funding is to plant 2 new trees for every 1 tree that is removed. So we're trying to get ahead of this, so that it isn't, so there's more of a transition as the community transitions from a tree canopy that was dominated by ash trees to a more diverse group of trees. I would also know, especially in our parks, we're not just removing all the ash trees. We are treating some of those ash trees also. And then as homeowners, if we have ash trees, those are the decisions that homeowners would make. Do you remove and replace, or do you make that long-term commitment on treating? And that's a decision that every homeowner will make. Our removal process this past winter has been more aggressive just because of the lack of snowfall. Our street department has more available time, so you see a lot of activity, especially on our public ways and boulevards on tree removal. We will kind of stop that once we get into probably mid-April, because at that time, once the trees are leafing out, there'll be more activity with the emerald ash borer beetle. The larvae will pupate out, and then it'll be, so we don't want the tree removal to be done really during that time when the beetles are active, because it would actually facilitate the spread.
Yeah, and I know I've seen some communities where ash borer has been more prevalent, and it's quite devastating. And so I think the city taking a proactive approach is a really good one. You mentioned the DNR grant. We also, part of that have a resident participation in that. They can get funding, $200 for tree removal to help assist with that, or $100 per tree. So if you have any questions about that, it's a fantastic opportunity to help us with ash borer, but also improve your own home site with tree development. Talk to Preston Stensrud if you have interest in that. I can talk a little bit about this. I brought this up last year. We actually had a really great donation from a group of individuals to develop a disc golf course through Independence Park. And this last year, we're able to complete it. We're going to have a ribbon cutting here, hopefully sometime this spring. But that back parking lot that we talked about a few slides ago, one of the reasons it's getting used more is because of the rise in the interest in disc golf. So we're happy to see this project completed with donations from some community members and the work of the park staff. And I know Lauren and Bob and I played. We weren't very good, but we highly recommend you try it out.
So really one of the corporate leaders on this in his spare time is a real advocate on disc golf, and that's Glenn Bader from Relco. And he's passionate about disc golf, and he's good at it, and he really attempted to teach Sharon and I and Lauren. And unfortunately, it was like 95 degrees on a Friday afternoon, and I wasn't in the mode to learn anything, and so we weren't good students, but he really tried. So this past year, with partnership with Brow Brewing, with SMSU Athletics, and the City of Marshall, we also then introduced our themed beers, and there's a display over here. So that's really an example of kind of enhancing our branding and partnership. So one of the city's brand statement is cultivating the best of us. So one of the city beer is called Cultivate, which is an ale. And of course the Mustang, which is the Southwest State University, and for every 6-pack that's sold, I believe $1 goes to the university through the foundation. The others would be the 1872. That's really a nod to our history. 1872 was the year that Marshall was founded, and then the other is called Jumpin' Jiminy, which is the mascot for Tallgrass Liquor. So it is a partnership between Tallgrass, SMSU, Brow Brewing, City of Marshall. I think people are pretty excited about that. So,
And I know you have a palate for beer, and it's pretty good beer.
I don't have a palate of them. No, jeez. So
But it's pretty good beer.
yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a fun project. So
So some future projects. I think we're all interested in what has been, but what's coming up. So we'll talk a little bit about some future projects. And of course, one of those future projects is the Aquatic Center. You all know the history of the Aquatic Center, the local option sales tax. We received legislative authority to go to a vote of the public. That was passed 2-1 to authorize that for the single purpose of the construction of the Marshall Aquatic Center. It went out for bids. Bids came in too high. Then we came back with the help of not only the City Council but the Aquatic Center Committee, and number one, did some re-engineering, but also looked at a different way that we'd have some more options for bidders. So we went the construction manager route. So because of that, we'll have 17 different bid packages that would be possible. That opens up the possibility for many more bidders, especially some smaller bidders and some local contractors that might have the availability of doing that wouldn't have the availability of doing a $20 million bond, so that they would be able to be a bidder on that. We're out for bid right now. Bids are expected to come in on March 11th. A few other projects that are coming up, and I'll start on this, and Sharon can fill in on the upper part would be that Independence Park Pavilion. That is in need of replacement. That's the main shelter pavilion that's at Independence Park. It was constructed in, I believe, 1989. It's a wood frame structure of laminated wood that has deteriorated, and it is actually structurally unsound right now. So that will be replaced. Last night, the City Council did accept the bids to have the construction of the facility, and I think our Parks Department would say the goal is to have that done by early June. So the existing structure, the pavilion at Independence Park, early May will be removed. There'll be new footings, foundations that will be put there. There'll be a replacement of the bathroom that will be adjacent to the new pavilion. So that'll be a spring to early summer project. To the right of that, or maybe your left, it looks like a dirt area. This is the next phase 3 of the Legion Field area or Legion Road area drainage. And so this will be the third phase. The first phase of that were the drainage improvements and the retention ponds that are in between the two ball fields on Legion Field Road. The second phase then was some drainage improvements and retention that was on the other side of the railroad tracks, more towards Brussels Court Road, towards the U.S. Bank. And then the third phase would be the downstream portion of this drainage area would be kind of come towards Turkey Valley Farms, cross underneath the railroad track, and then there'll be a retention pond that will be there near the Nexus apartment buildings, and then the outflow then to the diversion channel. This is important to talk about because this is really the last major project that we have for our flooding, stormwater improvements that we've had, and we really started on this endeavor following the 1993 flood. So this was a good one to see done. This is probably the last area of the community that when we get a heavy rain that we have some localized flooding. So this should take care of that.
yeah, and I want to just add on this, not only the small fee that residents pay for stormwater, which has been talked about recently, helps contribute to fund this, so it isn't on property tax dollars, but we also received a large Pollution Control Agency grant for this particular project as well, which helps save money within the community.
You want to talk about the area operators?
I can. Most of you may have heard we're looking at our purchase of a new aerial fire truck. It takes a couple of years to build. We're hoping to have it arrive this year. We secured financing just last night for the aerial. A very important piece of equipment. We have large structures, and this particular aerial truck will help save those if anything devastating happens. But it also helps with life safety as well. This particular picture shows grain bin rescues, and I know our fire department does a lot of training on this. But it isn't just for fires. It is a life-saving piece of equipment as well, and it's extremely important that we have it. And it's an investment not only for the city, but really for the region.
And this replaces the 35-year-old ladder truck. And then to the right of that is Liberty Park Band Shell. Once again, Liberty Park Band Shell was originally constructed in 1951. It has two arches that are the structural components, and then they're tied together with wood and plywood, and then on the outside of that is concrete. There's been shifting of the foundation, the structures. It's clearly unsound and needs to be either renovated or more likely replaced. We do have legislation that has been introduced on the Senate and will be introduced on the House to receive $795,000 of legacy funding. That's money that we've already paid in our 3/8 sales tax that goes to the legacy fund. So we're hopeful that we will receive that funding for the replacement of the Liberty Park Band Shell in about 5 minutes. So Highway 19 reconstruction, of course, this will be a 2-year project. It will be majorly disruptive for the next 2 years. They're going to start on the west end. This probably early May, perhaps even late April, depending on the weather, and then continue that in 2025 to the intersection of Main Street, and then the next year will be then all the way to Bruce Street. So this is a major project. It replaces 80 to 100-year infrastructure that's underneath the street, complete replacement of the streets and the sidewalks. So it's a major, major project. In fact, it's the largest construction project that MnDOT has had in the MnDOT District 8. R&G Construction is the contractor, so it's local contractor.
Yeah, and we also did get a federal grant with the help of our congressional delegation, which again helps lower the impact locally on our property taxes. So we're grateful for that support as well.
So we also have some trail development that will happen this year. So a number of different projects that we have for trail development. What will happen this year is the trail at County Road 7. There'll be a new crossing that will be there, and then the trail will go straight across rather than zigzag around the business that's out there. So that would be constructed this year. There'll also be the safe crossing that will be done at A Street. There'll also be the extension of the existing trail that ends at near the Aldi area, so that will be continued all the way down to Windstar Street. And then in future years, then the trail connection from the library area along the current middle school and Parkside Elementary down to Southview, that is scheduled, that is funded. And then beyond that, other trail development, bike trail development, and will be in the Justice Park area, replacement of the bridge across the river, and then trail extension into Justice Park, and then the renovation of the trail along Country Club Drive. And these are funded through our MnDOT District 8 Area Transportation Partnership through their Transportation Alternatives Fund, so that funds 80% of that. And those are federal dollars, and then the state dollars would be funded through our active transportation for the remaining 20% through the Active Transportation Committee. I do happen to sit on both of those committees, so it's a good source of funding.
All right, I would just want to briefly cover a little bit on daycare study as well. I know last year at our State of the City, we had questions on daycare availability and the concern about the lack of daycare not only in Marshall, but again, the region. A lot of our communities are facing this issue. So our EDA did engage with First Children's Finance, and the Chamber has been really instrumental. We've looked at some facilities. We think there's some potential. We know that there's actually some interested providers, some new individuals who want to get into this, and hopefully we can help secure some funding as well. So it's still a work in progress, but driven really by community members who came forward and said, we really need to look at this. And like I said, it was brought up last year, and I think we're making some good progress to it, and we'll just keep working at it.
And then finally, we want to kind of end with talking about healthcare in the community. Vera Marshall will be celebrating the 75 years, and this is really a tribute to history and the Lewis B. Weiner family that really brought healthcare together in the community. So, as we see that picture of that facility 75 years ago when it opened, I believe that's the entrance that is really near the long-term care facility on the north side of the facility. Just as then, healthcare, quality healthcare in the community is important for the vitality of the community, for a thriving community. It's the same today as was 75 years ago, except for it's much more complex and advanced today. With that, I believe that's the end of our slides. We do have a few minutes for questions, and Brad, I believe there's a microphone if anyone has questions, but you've been a very patient audience, so I thank all of you for attending. Are there any questions? Brad has the mic.
I don't think so. So, any final comments?
So, thank you, Brad. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for being here. It's going to be a good year. State of the city as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again for coming, and thanks to our sponsors. This meeting is adjourned.